Good afternoon. So today I'm not going to speak so much about my own personal experiences, but rather about your work in policymaking and how we can learn collectively in global education policy. And I think that's a big lesson from this ARC event and also from the work that I've been undertaking with many of you. We know that the global context is really influencing our education systems, our societies. We have technology, we have migration, we have diversity, we have a number of factors that are really pushing us to change, to rethink how our education systems deliver. And so we're moving towards a new paradigm in education, and somehow our schools are behind. So what can we do? What can we learn from our education systems that we can apply to this new paradigm? Well, what we know is that education policy making has been more of a band-aid approach. It has used a patchwork approach to solving problems rather than looking into the future. We know that in the last 10 years, OECD countries have introduced more than 450 reforms in education. And that's a very large number of reforms for schools to really to take on, to embrace, to even implement, and so that they can have influence. So what can we do in order to make sure that this new paradigm shift in education really goes to the classrooms, to our schools, to our children, and that we are able to shape the future that we want of equity, integrity, and well-being for our students? Well, we need to move from this patchwork approach of policymaking to a coherent approach in policymaking, where we first of all embrace those who are engaged in policymaking at all levels. And that's really very difficult for policymakers, but we know that there are some examples that are succeeding. And I can share the examples of Wales, for example, who is in the very messy state of co-constructing policies that take so much longer than having the one vision from the ministry or from the department and then hoping that it will happen in the schools and that students will then learn what the ministry decided to implement, to actually reshape and reconstruct the world of policy to make sure that teachers are involved, that school principals are involved, that local education stakeholders are involved in the process. In Sweden, this is also being done, but it takes a lot longer. But in the end, the results will be that it will have much more impact on the schools, because those that are to be involved are actually from the beginning, and they will make much more meaningful policy that if only policymakers do it on their own in their offices in the central capitals of their states. And so that's one key lesson. The second one is to make sure to invest in school leadership. Now, school leaders can actually make change happen in the schools, and they can actually improve the results of the children in their schools quite a lot. And there's been quite solid evidence on this. And regretfully, policymakers never invest or don't invest enough in school leaders. This is the forgotten policy lever. And what is important is to invest much more, not only in initial training, but actually in making school leaders an integral part of reform strategies. Ontario has done this, Australia has invested, but many countries kind of do their strategies, their policies, and in the end remember, oh, yes, we forgot about our leaders. Let's do a little program in the back. No. These have to be your coherent policy strategies require putting school leaders and investing them from the beginning. Now, all of these lessons can be learned through what you're doing, what we're doing now, what we do at the OECD, which is policy learning, peer learning, and sharing so that we can drive the future that we want for our children or for our societies, which will involve much more equity, much more quality, but also including well-being and values in our education systems. Thank you very much.